Greetings, New Hammer, Middle Hammer, and Old Hammer folks alike. I am Old Grumpy Wolf, aka Lennon Midnight, and welcome to the Mini Bar Podcast. I'll be serving you up lots of awesome painting nerdiness, talking to other painters from around the web. And tonight, well, more like this afternoon at the bar, we have the myth, the legend, the enigma, just the all-around awesome guy making insane miniatures, Pax Acrylica, aka Eugene. Thank you for coming on the show, sir. I really appreciate it.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
I've been following you for I want to say like 4 years now. I found you on my my brand / business account that I ran for a long time. I think back in 22, and
Instagram.
Yeah, and I started following you there, and then when I started doing OldGrumpyWolf, of course, I transitioned that over to follow you on OGW. But no, I was always just beyond amazed with the stuff that you create, like the stuff you sculpt, and I mean your painting is astronomically cool. And I've told a few of my friends that on Instagram, I was like, dude, you'll never guess who I got on the show, and they're like, who? I was like, Pax Acrylica. They're like, bro. So you're really well known and really highly regarded for the things that you do. A good buddy of mine up in Canada, I mean, he adores the green stuff work you do.
Thank you so much for compliments.
Just to give people an idea of where you are in the world, where are you at in the world?
Well, I'm on the very, very north of Maine.
Oh, okay.
Which is sort of, I think I ended up crossing ocean all the way from Russia where I started, and end up pretty much in a very similar climatic zone. So,
yeah. Oh yeah, it's cold up there.
Canadian border is right 5 minutes away. Oh, depends on which road you would take. So that's as close. And yeah, it's reasonably cold. We have a good winter here. Not much people who do miniatures, although there is a people who do Warhammer. Yeah. And there is a people who paint. I think much more populated areas in the south of the state. North is very, very sort of rare. I didn't initially plan to live long in this area, but I guess have some proximity to nature. It has its own, appeal to me. So
yeah,
I ended up working for 13 years in a local small hospital.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic people. I mean, I said nature, but I would say that the people, I would say whole small community. Yeah, kind of start families. So
yeah, it's kind of funny with like living here in the States, and I'm sure you found this out. Like the one state that you never hear anything about or from is Maine. It's just like this little state tucked all the way up in the right hand corner. Like it's just like you just don't hear anything out of it. Like even with the business that I run, like I'll get an order maybe once or twice a year from folks in Maine, and that's it. And it's like a whole nother separate little country up there. I think it's really funny. But
when I was born in Russia, in another very huge and very sort of kind of important for the world country. The United States is a big one. You may think about a few sort of empires or huge countries, which is obviously has some historical footprint. And one of the famous Russian poets who was very opposing to all sorts of regimes said, if you're born in empire, you should live very deep in a province and preferably at coast of the sea or ocean, as far as possible. And I think kind of escaping from Russia was one thing, but finding in the United States a very, again, bustling, political, currently very divided and kind of, hot country, a very calm place like north of Maine.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's just like you describe, it's a very, very separate from all these winds and hurricanes.
Well, to dive right into the show, the first question that I always ask my guests is, what got you into the hobby and miniature painting?
My grandma. That's it. Kind of,
yeah,
my most famous answer. Babushka, yeah. I mean, you think about it, during the Soviet Union, we were blessed with not having any toys. Have a very scarcity of toys. So I think one of the best gifts was a piece of this artistic clay of different colors you can start working with. Somehow I was working with this crazy material called styrofoam, when used for packing, like the bubbly material. No, not the bubbly, but not bubbles, but that white kind of hard material which usually people pack the TVs and everything else. I somehow started cutting it with the blades, being a kid. But then, cutting with the blades in the ways that create some shapes and glue them together, creating miniatures. Like first miniatures were like that because there was no really anything like epoxies or green stuff. Like absolutely, either not invented yet, or and that's how it started. Because if you don't have toys, you just make them kind of around the books you read, and I think I got my idea of inspirations the same way. So you read a good book. And then you kind of start to making something out of it. It's something inside, something of it you have it inside of you, and some of that is people around you, they influence you, they kind of show you the way and give you materials. That's what probably parents best kind of gift to us, or grandparents' best gift to us. It's just also unleash that sort of interest further on and give materials, whatever materials you can find it, and kind of the rest kid would do himself. I have quite a huge collection of those toys. Started from books, then first Disney movies were like series arrived, and then it all kind of was down since I get to medical school and working, learning, studying. Usually that occupied quite good amount of your brain, so you don't really think about anything else.
Yeah.
But kind of when training was more very intense, you may kind of feel that hobby is a fantastic thing to have, because it gives you like relax, give you inner calm, just ability to recover from burnout and everything else. So, and that's how that hobby kind of jumped back. In that time, I was once when I was a kid in the United Kingdom. There was a small group of us traveling for exchange students to small towns, and over there I saw Games Workshop, like small store. I think I grabbed some orcs, some paints, and I came back, and at the time we didn't have any acrylic paints. Like it was like really like a big thing. It was first Games Workshop kind of paint. I remember I bought every paint but white, and that's what really hurt me for a long time because I could just find the paint. It's like white paint. I mean, but nevertheless, after a period of time when I kind of forgot about it, in medical school, I checked, and apparently there was already a big Russian community of Warhammer players, painters, and the miniature range jumped from, I think it was like second edition to like 5 or something, which is already like a fantastic miniature. So I got a bunch of them and kind of slowly started working on them, but quickly realized that instead of just painting them, all I did just assemble and paint a bunch. I kind of eventually progressed to, what if I cut here, add there, bring something else, shampoo bottle, what can be used of it, or something else. I think a few like machinery for the scaven here and there, to kind of slowly develop to the fact that it's just boring for me to just paint miniatures. Was much more interesting for me to make. And again, we have already a community of people who were doing it on much better level. For example, Kirill Kanaev, or Yellow One, who was like a winner of the Slayer Swords at the beginning of 2000s, who was like already doing a lot of conversion scratch builds, the crazy good. I would encourage you to. You familiar with Yellow One? Kirill Kanaev. Yeah, if you just go to ancient website called the Cool Mini or Not.
Oh yeah.
Prior to doing the board games, they were actually doing just a gallery where everybody can post under the nick, and everybody would rank them. It was before the Instagram time kind of thing. And if you just put Yellow One in one word as an artist and that gallery, I mean, pieces he made are still are not passed, by these days. either by me or many others. So he's a really genius. Still making miniatures. So
Okay.
Live in Russia.
Yeah, I'll see if I can actually track him down on Instagram. If not, I'll post a link to the cool mini or not thing down in the description after we do the video.
I'll send you a link for his account. He's I think Kanaev is his last name, and I think he's under this name. He's my friend. But in Russia nowadays, they prohibit people from using Instagram. They slow it down. So it's not easy. So he may not particularly be using his account very frequently. I see him here and there, but yeah, I think that his ancient and most majestic works collection is still on Cool Mini or not. Just kind of collected there. I think PT and Paint was a very famous also website before the Instagram times, where people just rank each other works. I think he's also present quite there. So
okay. And so you kind of got into it like in second edition, and then kind of back into it in the 2000s. It sounds like. Yeah. So you're in
the Warhammer Game Workshop. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you and I are roughly around the same age. I turned 43 this year, so.
45. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So and I have. Did you? When did you actually come to the U.S.? Was it in the 2000s?
It was 2008.
Okay.
So I finished medical school. I have a bunch of colleagues who, we have exchange programs working with the United States and Connecticut. So they just was able to use opportunity, learn a language somewhere around that time. Was fascinated with America at the time.
No, just the way you talked about Russia. A good friend of mine, her and her family came over here in the 80s. I think when it was still USSR. And so like she's told me stories and all that stuff about what was going on in her whole trek over here. So it's really interesting to hear, other people who've immigrated over here from Russia and going back that far from the USSR. But to kind of keep it going on the hobby side of things, did you get into the hobby because of gaming or painting?
Painting.
Okay.
I played Warhammer once.
I've only played it twice.
I was not impressed. Yeah, the same thing. Again, I think, I kind of, few years ago, I was again encountered accidentally I went to buy some materials, and it was in a different country. There was a Warhammer club, and there was a people who put a lot of, so there was a big tournament. And I look at this kind of crumbled tables with a terrain and a bunch of the vehicles and flying, and it was just, I don't know how, it was a tremendous feeling of how you call it, when the things not just in disarray, but I forgot
the mess, nightmare, dumpster fire.
Not the mess, clutter.
Oh, okay, clutter.
A big clutter kind of thing, The things are not just in disarray. They kind of clumped away. You will not imagine the real conflict going. I guess I visually like games like what is that space ship game.
Oh, Space Hulk.
Gothic. Not Gothic.
Battlefield Gothic.
Battlefield Gothic. Or this epic scale, when they have like a buildings and the titans and everything is a little bit small, so you can kind of sort of, it looks from the side more appealing, but I never played those games. I once in the Adepticon saw how they played the real scale titans from Forge World. They really build the buildings which were like a huge human size type of thing, and they were playing the titans over there. I don't know how that experience would go, but at least for me it looks more authentic than just what Games Workshop offer nowadays. So it's a place, a privateer press War Machine, because it's just a few models. It's a relatively game has some tactics, potential sort of lag base, maybe not the best system, but I painted miniatures at the time. I like steampunk, so that was only war game I played for few months.
You mentioned Adepticon. Have you actually gone to Golden Demon?
I've been. Golden Demon is a recent thing. Yeah. Before that was a Crystal Brush competition.
Okay.
And I visited once with a friend of mine, Kirill Kanaev. He came from Russia to give some workshops. So we just met there with a bunch of people. Sort of I knew. he knew. So it was mostly like a party type of thing. I don't think he participated, but one of his miniatures was presented by the owner. I don't think I was aware that was going on, but he won actually Adepticon a year earlier with this. He made like a Spice Marine, which looks like James Bond. The face was of this. Who's the most recent James Bond?
Sean Connery?
No, after the most recent few movies.
Oh, I don't.
Daniel Craig. Craig.
I'm not a big fan of the
face
007 series, so I don't quite know. I just know Sean Connery for sure.
Yeah, there was Daniel Craig and everything else, and then again, when these Titans, they were competing for serious money. That was like $10,000 prize or something like that.
Yeesh.
And then there was a bunch of people from Italy, from Spain came, and they were just they brought their staff with them, and everybody was more inventive and creative than other thing. It's a big thing. A friend of mine, they encouraged me to participate once. I did once in Russia. It was like kind of not a golden demon in Russia. It was a crystal hammer or something like that.
Okay.
It was like a local, the Game Workshop approved competition. So I brought the stuff called the Mole Machine, like I did it for Scavens. It was inspired by one of the old ancient Shadow of the Hornet Bread games. And I made it. It looks fantastic to my knowledge. I didn't win anything at the time. And then a friend of mine, actually, with whom we all met in Moscow, got some prize or something. And then I see on the Games Workshop site my work posted and then his name attached. So they screwed the competition or something like that. It was a kind of funny story about. But other than that, it was, kind of since then, I mean, participating in Golden Demons means that you need to travel at the time to UK. And you need to travel from Russia, you need a visa and you need money. So at the time, I was not particularly capable.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm going to for the first time ever in my life going to Adepticon Golden Demon next year with my gal. And
participate?
What's that? Yeah, I'm gonna
participate in.
I don't.
I saw your wolves.
Oh, thank you.
Wolves. They're beautiful. They're very old style and very kind of nostalgic. I think you have fantastic chances.
I've got that. I did a sneaky beaky display that I'm going to enter, and I think I'm gonna. So I don't know if it's going to work, but a good buddy of mine suggested this, and he made fun of me royally for it because I didn't listen to him the first time he said it, and I heard it from somebody else, and it's a whole other story. But I'm going to enter the RTB01 sneaky beakies in 30K because technically they classify as 30K now, and then I'm going to do a layout or a display of 5 of the old second edition Blood Claws. There we go. Do a display of them, enter those in 40K, and then I don't know, some single miniature category stuff. And I'm really not expecting to actually place. It would just be really nice to come home with like a commended pin or a notable pin. I love that. That will just make my heart go. That'll make my heart swoon because it's like I actually won something at Golden Demon.
And you're absolutely right. This is the way to go because you have a certain style of painting. You have a certain idea of how you paint it, how it looks. But it's kind of mishmash with your sort of a brain filters and biases and everything else. So you may not see certain things you're missing or would improve or something like that. So one of them, another friend, Marina Fadeeva from Russia, she's a big participant, also big miniature painter. She said that it's so much open your horizons if you just go for competitions. Yeah, you see your work comparing to other works on the stand, and it immediately gives you this sort of feeling. It's almost like instant feedback. Nobody even tell you what you would do better, what you would do differently, but you somehow feel it, and then next time you do differently, it means better. Yeah. So you automatically get yourself improved if it's your goal. You just go for competition. You put your work against other works. I
competed here in Las Vegas at Las Vegas Open in January, and that was I saw what was there, and I was like, "There's no way that I'm gonna like win anything." And I ended up taking a bronze coin for my Ulrich Slayer, and I talked to one of the judges. And he's like, dude, like your miniature was like, all 5 of us were talking about your miniature because like you do like that old 1990s, early 2000s Eavy Metal, Grim Bright style. And he's like, we don't really ever see this anymore. We were like, wow, this looks like something straight out of White Dwarf from the 90s.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what attracted, when I saw your works, that's what exactly immediately attracted attention. So I think it's also certain talent to choose something, you be like different than mainstream. Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing for me is like what I'm looking forward to is just seeing all the miniatures that people bring. There was a video that came out. I think it was about a month or so after last year's Golden Demon over in Europe. This guy actually went through and documented. He just took nice, clean close-up shots and tracking shots with a gimbal of everything that was being entered for Golden Demon. It was like a 45-minute video. And it was just so neat to see from like beginners all the way up to guys who are like well above my pay grade. But I think it's just going to be really cool to see that, experience that in person.
Yeah.
And actually get to talk to some of those people.
You put yourself against them.
Yeah.
And many works will be much better. That's the nature of things. Some will not. And then you would immediately feel you have this sort of internal cathartic change, which is sort of you would come home a different person. That's for sure. Plus a good company. You meet the people who share this sort of heart, ache, hobby, this sort of intricate things with the most of the world do not understand. Why, what?
Well, that was one reason I started the show.
Exactly. You would touch somebody who is who's sharing this sort of big hobby.
Yeah. Actually, yesterday I spent a good 20 or 30 minutes just thinking of some good questions to ask specifically you because of the very unique and awesome things that you do and come up with. And one of the questions is, how did you get into? Well, no, actually, you already answered that, but I'll ask it anyway. How did you get into customization and the mini sculpting work you do?
In what sense, customization?
What's that?
Well, what sense customization? I mean, just scratch build and kit bash?
Yeah, like what got you into doing the whole kit bashing and conversion thing that you do? You talked a little bit about it when you were young. You custom sculpted minis, but how did that translate over to what you're doing now?
I think it's just the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
But in a way is that thanks to Games Workshop for ample amount of bits they provide, and then obviously at home you have a collection of the sprues with the stuff left on them, so it gives you even more materials. Always my eye, and it's always a temptation. You look at something new, they give you not as a kind of so they give you like model, but somehow you also see a kind of potential you can extract from that model. Or, like, for example, recently I bought on eBay, I think, Eldari, that hovercraft kind of thing, which has like two wings on the side, and horns. And I kind of got it, and I think, what if I cut those wings and just the body of it actually reminds me a starship I saw in Starfield. And what I attached, some other stuff, and get kind of, a mercenary ship. So it's almost like, one idea kind of touching another one, one thought touching another one, and you suddenly, are very far from what Games Workshop want you to do to some kind of world. I mean, that's the fun of it, yeah? It's imagination. You start kind of, see where you end up. Sometimes you not end up with what you thought. Sometimes you end up somewhat stuck. I mean, sometimes not. So yeah, and sometimes things are very accidentally happening. It's not like you plan ahead. You may get I have this sort of tank piece of it, and I kind of had debate, what kind of tower I want for this tank. This head on this. It kind of didn't match. Therefore, there was not really any fire. And then I had a totally leftover or something like that from Russian old green tank. Not tank, I mean, artillery kind of platform. And I took up one piece, added to this and I kind of immediately got this sort of, oh, these two things match. They were designed, produced, thousands, days, kilometers from each other. But yet, you put them together, and they're almost like, we're always born to be combined that way. That's a fascinating from hobby. You almost see this connection between different beats, different pieces. And then kind of together they kind of give you something absolutely new. That's just, I think it's the essence of the hobby for me. So it's
Okay, so with all that being said, there's another good one that I came up with that I'm very curious about, is where do your influences come from for what you sculpt?
Well, they come from other people.
Okay.
They're mostly, I mean, as I said, I was already talking about people who almost like a spiritual teacher, or people who almost inspired you to continue that hobby. Seeing their works, seeing what they achieved, you can, it's just fascinating. I know other people apart from Kanaev. I would make names like Paolo Parente, with his Dust series. So you familiar?
No, I'm not. I kind of have a running bet. It's not. We just kind of agree. That buddy of mine up in Canada, when we both look at your work, we see a lot of like the old movie from the '70s, Dune.
Yes,
we see a lot of inspiration.
It's
from
gonna
that.
go into another. Yes, David Lynch, Dune, all this, Geiger.
Oh wow!
Old kind of new but old, old but new kind of retrofuturism style. I periodically I like video games. I like movies. So that's if you play a really talented video game, such as for example Doom, or you play something like or you see the games kind of the past, you may not play it, but somehow art is immediately captivating. Like most recently, it was Forever Winter. Yeah, so I think my last work I kind of get is just sort of very apocalyptic, very sort of weird, very sort of retrofuturistic at the same time, kind of weird punk in the ways like bio mechanical all clumped together. So, and again, it's like you're gonna almost listen yourself. If something like ignites you, get like, oh, I want to do it. There's a certain art concept. You see that art of the game or something like that. Suddenly you would see something. It's like, oh, I really want to. I like that form, or I like that shape, or I like that kind of combination of two parts. You know. Is it something I can do as well, or is it something that inspires me to do something else in that style, in that venue, or using that flame kind of, to create something new? That's so video games, definitely art books, what artists made based on video games or video movies, or something like that. So that's always a big source of inspiration. I may find myself, like I played Bloodborne for a while. I was totally blown. It was like amazing, like art-wise, atmosphere-wise. It's something that captivates you that much that suddenly you notice that your works, I don't know, funny-wise, you may do something completely from that game. But you're like, well, what is my hub? My hub is the Warhammer universe, which is very eclectic, which would take everything, from Vikings in a spacesuit to, Necromunda denizens, some kind of decadent aristocracy, some Inquisition, some, I mean, you can do everything in Warhammer universe because it's so accepting. So that's why I said, well, I'm doing this people from Bloodborne, but I easily can see them with a few modifications be part of the, Necromunda or Warhammer universe as well.
No, I like a lot with like with your Imperium figures, the like the I don't know, like the commanders and the basically the Imperial Guard stuff, the higher ranking officers and the bureaucrats and stuff like that you do. I like with the bureaucrats like how bloaty and big you make them, almost so it's almost like kind of I can't think of the word right now, like a characterization of, or that encompasses kind of the bloat and the steam that like politicians tend to, spout out. And I don't know what you come up with as far as your miniatures go. Like I've always been a massive fan. I think I found you, I think right around the time that you'd either just done them or like done them a little bit prior, were the two giant Terminators that you made, the one Space Wolf and I think the other one was a Blood Angel. And that was how I found your stuff. And I was just like, holy crap, these are good. These are so cool. They're just such a unique take because of like all the conversion work you did on them, and especially how big you made them.
It's exactly you. I think you really look into the core of it, because there's something of caricature, in the steampunk and weird punk. If we talk about aristocracy and a bloated aristocracy, it's almost it's a traditional caricaturic kind of depiction, and it sort of has a certain spill into the steampunk or weird punk. You can sort of see it's there, and we're talking again back to Dune, Baron Harkonnen, traditionally fat, bloated figurine of evil, of power, of that kind of presence. Indeed, it's kind of big and fat and bloated. And again, if I look at my childhood and all those propaganda posters made by communists, they always depicted capitalists as a big bloated people. Maybe it's coming from that time, so I don't know. Maybe so.
It's interesting how our backgrounds and the things that we're into affect what we create, and like the way that and the way we display said creation when it's finally done.
But maybe the AI, AI is just what AI does nowadays. It kind of takes the thousands and thousands of thousands and tens of thousands of work of artists, and mishmash them and kind of create something in the same style. But maybe our brain does the same, but in an organic way. Your background, your childhood, your whatever you saw, whatever was passing by you, all the storages of images, which brain keeps, then artistically get kind of, mishmashed, stuffed and everything else in ways you don't know how exactly it happens, but somehow you have this picture in front of you, or you see it when you see part of detail, and then you want to add another detail, and that's how you do. So that could be very, very same way how our consciousness produced the art.
There's another question that I was very, very curious about. Since you're so into using green stuff and milliput, have you thought about using 3D modeling and printing versus hand sculpting?
I did. I think I have a few programs. Blender, I think. All of them. I took some kind of a basics lessons of it. Didn't get very far. I think it's a little bit hard now. I have a kid, so along with work, but I keep it as something potentially new, and I'm eager to learn. For now, sculpting is it's something what you take it from screen time. Sit in the Blender, you need to get it back to screen. If you already spend some time playing video game or browsing the internet or even Instagram, it's a screen time, so you want to get yourself out of screen time. So you kind of create this sort of lacunas where you just do something with your hands in the natural real world. So I think it's going back to Blender and back to virtual reality and create something over there. So
you just touched on something that hit me hard when I was working on the that Space Wolves tutorial. I just put out. I think I spent about 2 weeks actually filming and painting, and then another week and a half just editing all the video together, doing all the audio production, doing the voiceover, stuff like that. And I think it was like the Monday or Tuesday, the week before I was finished. It was driving me nuts because I'd just been glued to my computer for so many days straight, editing video and getting everything cut and all that. I'm like, I gotta make something, man. I need to get hands on. I want to get away from the damn computer for a while. So I haven't posted them yet, but I made a plinth for my my Layman Rust that I painted last year for Darren Latham's Glow Up Challenge. And it was just I was kind of diving back and forth. I was editing for a couple hours, and then I'd go play with the plinth because I had to wait for PVA glue to dry. But it was just nice to have hands on, not stuck behind a computer kind of thing again. And I've spent so much of my life and my career stuck behind a computer that the miniature aspect of what I do now is nice because it's like, no, I'm actually hands on, tactile. This is not an LCD monitor staring back at me. And but yeah, the screen time thing versus the hands on thing, I can completely understand where you're coming from. I had the episode comes out not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. I actually got to interview Tim Prow from Games Workshop Eavy Metal staff in the 90s, and he's the one who did all the box art minis for early second edition 40K stuff. So like the Space Wolves, the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, the Dark Angels, all those original box art pieces were his. But he has a miniature line that he runs. He's been into sculpting for God ever, and he actually still his entire miniature range is still hand sculpted out of green stuff.
Old good style. And again, you know, after practicing for so long, it's almost like you don't need to really measure it. You already kind of, you know, your eyes already does this work. So, but again, doing it virtually in a blender or something like that, it has its own fun. I see fantastic works done by people who masters a blender. Techniques and everything else, different system used and everything else, and it's fantastic in its own way. And there's the people who, again, maybe has much more affinity with the programs, with the monitor, with the design. They easily do it there. So, and it's what is good. You can also, you know, just print it. So many times it's also print friendly, so you can give it to your friends or sell it or do your line. That's its own kind of value. But for me, I mean, again, hobby is something you do in opposite to many things you must do in this world. So in that sense, for now, you know, sculpting it, kind of the way to go. But I you know, in the future, we'll see.
Well, the neat thing about what you do, and this is like something the two people, the two sculptors I've had on the show. Now you're the third. There's Tim Prow and there's my friend Ray who runs Beldalore Studios. She's the one who sculpted that little frog pope that's in my profile. We were both discussing, or like I've discussed with both of them on the show, regarding like modern day 3D sculpting and 3D printed models. Even Games Workshop's kind of they're better, but they're still kind of guilty of this, where you can only cram so much onto a 28 millimeter to 30 millimeter model, like detail wise. But like what you do, what Ray does, and what Tim does is you guys paint everything that you sculpt. So you always
that to your miniature.
Well, there a lot of people who sculpt on like Etsy, on those 3D sites, and who sell their stuff. A lot of them don't paint. So when you take the thing that you make and you start working with it in another way, hence like, you know, the painting and sculpting thing, or for what I was doing with body kits for cars, you know, I was working with them, getting them on the car, making them fit, and then post, I'd have to shave them down, put them back in the mold and trace trim lines, and then run them on my own car. You get that knowledge and feel for, okay, I've created this product, now I need to create another product out of it. I've 3D printed this, now I'm going to paint this. So you guys have that nice experience of, okay, I sculpted this, is this going to be fun to paint? And you paint it and you're like, okay, the next one I might want to tweak this, change this isn't right. You know, you get really the whole gamut of what you're creating, both from literally creating something from nothing for the miniature and then creating a painted miniature from a blank miniature. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
Absolutely. I approach to the painting in very simple ways. Everything I imagine in paint, in color.
Okay.
Yeah. So making something, sculpting it, it's only half of the way.
Yeah.
Granted, I have much more painted, sculpted miniatures than painted ones, because painting takes time. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, I recently discovered for myself the beauty of the oil paints. I can show you. Can I show you?
Yeah, sure.
If I switch it this way, will it work? Yeah, see?
Oh, wow.
That's pretty much just a working base. It's a little room, but it's sort of, you can work on something. So.
Yeah.
And so oil is a fantastic medium because it's almost like you sculpting with the paint.
Yeah. It's very
because
different than acrylic.
Sort of a thick layer, very slow to dry. You you put it together, you mix it sort of, but we have a feeling of, I don't know, it's a fun to work with, but it's a very slow work compared to sculpting. Sculpting, I can do 5 minutes. I mean, I can just put materials behind my monitor if I work, and I take like 5-minute break or 10-minute break. I can just sculpt something and wait until it do more work while it's all drying. But painting, no, you need to threshold of entrance and start painting is higher. You need to set up things, get the time, but it's fun. It's really fun, but it's slower.
Yeah.
So, but I just kind of sometimes I'm approached after sculpting something. People say, "Well, may I buy it, please?
Yeah.
Please sell it." And I said, "Fine, absolutely. I have so many unpainted miniatures. I already hand for them." Sometimes I feel like, no, I like that painted myself.
Yeah.
I also may have that kind of emotion. But yeah, I prefer to finish the work. I prefer to kind of get it to the completion solely because it's almost like if it was that something you imagined, then you sort of need to do it to the certain end. If it was like your wish, your push, your kind of dream to get it kind of real, then it's include all the stages. So.
And while we're on the subject of sculpting, what advice would you give to people looking to get into custom mini sculpting like you have?
Like probably the most frequently given advice: practice. I would say there's a certain things you learn over a period of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for example, which material you would comfortable to use. Like for example, I like chisels, and I like made from like very hard rubber. Then I feel more comfortable. I started with some dental equipment. Got it somewhere, and it was like a amalgamation sort of. You kind of get used to what is like most comfortable in your hand, and then I guess there's no kind of hard rule. I think you should have this sort of motivation to change something in a ready product from whatever company you buy some pieces. If it's a kit bash or if you start like early, there's a lot of motivation. There's a lot of motivation. There's a lot of kind of one by one kind of basic videos, tutorials. And again, some things you just see how other masters do. Like for example, I learned to mix epoxy with the green stuff. Yeah. Again, from Acrylica knife. And I found it fantastic. And I do it since then. Maybe it's not a perfect thing. Maybe I see people like doing, stuff solid on green stuff and doing fantastic. And then somebody does just epoxy. So, I mean, there's no really correct things. My advice would be just do it. Just find the comfortable. Again, find the comfort in it. Find the fun in it. Find the, your hobby is in it, so it should be really, really fun to do so. And then just don't be frustrated. It definitely will get better. So
so kind of going back into the more painting side of things, because I mean you're an astronomically good painter as it is. Again, my buddy up in Canada, he takes some influence from your painting style. Yours and his painting styles are actually very similar. You guys do like a good mix of like grim dark and grim bright. But one thing I've been curious about, I have an idea. I think I know, but what kind of paints do you use to paint your miniatures with?
Well, I just saw it. It's just classic, very oil.
Oh, so you're actually using oils for all your stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were using AK.
No, there's oils.
And wow. Okay, I was totally wrong.
The oils, they have these beautiful, saturated, and very natural colors. Yeah. And you mix them a little bit to get different tones kind of on your palette. But yeah, that's it. Kind of that's the way it go for me. I learned it from again some other Russian painters, like Dmitry Fisechko. He posted a fantastic YouTube video of how to use oil paint to paint miniatures. So, and yeah, I mean, again, some of my friends do not like oil. Acrylic is faster drying on a wet palette. You can get kind of more reliable result. But as I said, I just said that you even like the process of using oil paints because of the slow sort of drying time, because you kind of almost sculpt with the paint on the top of the with colors. You may always change it. It gives you more flexibility, like variety, flexibility in your work. So it's fun.
I'm assuming like a lot of your miniatures, you start with a black, like either a black prime or a black base coat.
Usually, yes.
Okay.
Usually black. Then the initial, airbrush with white. Then I may also actually put some acrylic pre-paint, like see how the colors kind of put, because some oil paints like yellow and red is still like to have like a base beneath them, be rather lighter than darker. No, it's a typical rule for the yellow paint, to prevent it to look greenish. Then you put something beneath like a pink or at least white. So I sometimes use
I had Adam, the guy who runs Army Painter US. I had him on I think 2 shows ago, and we were talking about like the coverage of yellow and red, and like the actual behaviors of them and why they're so difficult to work with for a lot of people. They just, and you just said something that was really important, coming from somebody who works from oil paints, and anybody watching the show, like I've reiterated this numerous times. Yellow and red are just thin pigments. You're never going to get like, it's never going to be like a dark blue or like any of the darker colors, or even some of the mid-tone colors. You're never going to get one coat of pure saturation over a dark under base. It's just that's not the way the paints function. Yellow, like any greens made from a yellow base, yellow, reds, oranges, basically all the warmer colors in the spectrum, they're mixed from very thin pigmented colors. And undercoating, as you just said, is a very important thing when you're messing around with reds and yellows. And with you using oil paints, you just confirmed that both acrylic and oil, those colors are thin, no matter they're thin pigments, no matter what side of the paints you choose.
It's very true. I found the oil red, cadmium red, is one of the most brightest, the kind of thickest and concentrated red colors I ever met in my life. Actually, in fact, frequently I get questioned if I post something with red color, where did you get that good red? So. And it's oil. So it's very hard to get it from acrylic paint.
I'm really surprised that you use oils, because like looking at the way you paint is very much like my friend up in Canada. It looks. I literally thought you were using AK paints just based upon like the way the colors look when you use them.
Maybe they did similar in terms of the AK achieved significant. I think I use Chimera when I paint with the acrylics.
Okay. Did you have? I mean, since the 2000s, have you actually used any Games Workshop stuff or any of their paints recently?
Not really. I use Vallejo.
Oh, okay.
For longest of times, I liked it. I used then. What was the? I still have probably my largest collection of paints is not Vallejo, of acrylic paints. It's from the Reaper miniatures. Like,
I haven't tried any of their stuff.
Their line of paints is really good. I like they have this undertone like a browns of different variations, grays. Like this dark paints are really, really good. Like they really huge variety of the warmer and colder paints, and it's a pleasure to work with. Some of them I'm continue to buy over and over again, because sometimes you finish with oil, then you need to wait for drying. Then you cover it with a flat varnish, to take a gloss off, because oil is glossy, So you take a gloss off completely, and then you may work a little bit on the top of it with acrylic paints. Then I use the Reaper ones because they're fantastic. Continue some colors I still continue buying the same over a period of years.
Yeah. The one of the big questions I wanted to ask you was in regards to your painting. Who influenced your painting style? Because yours is very unique.
I would say that I started with a very classic lessons. I think I got a DVD with, to my guild, I don't remember the name of the painter, but I think she worked for one of the studios, and she just did how to paint, how to do blending, typical things. So I kind of started learning this with acrylic paint here and there. Then there was some time I was a Bochum.
Mm-hmm.
So he is sort of has a stippling figure.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a very, very precision, good sort of paint, the brush,
mm-hmm.
and you just stipple. And then through stippling, you also add the variation of the colors and everything else. That was interesting to try. And then there was a Sergio Calvio. I think he had a few works which were super inspiring when he really paint with just non-metal metallics in a way, which is kind of, he uses combined technique of sort of artistic paint on the miniature, how it shines and everything else would look if it's armor. But he also uses the airbrush to blend. Then he added again and blended again, kind of, back and forth. That was also kind of few techniques here and there. And then you just, with oils, it's totally, changing kind of game because of the consistency of oil paint and so many other factors. It was Dmitry Fizechko, the Russian painter, who just kind of, he sold me this idea that, you never need to think about, work quick because of the blending or put so many layers because of acrylic paint and blending and everything else. No, you just smash one tone here, one tone there, and it's done. It's a blending done within second. Granted, it comes with its own price. Oil paint is dry, and small pieces of dust can land on it. Grab them off. There's a certain, and then because of the gloss, you almost have a little bit different impression of miniatures once you put a varnish on it. But glossiness of it, when gloss goes away, it's start looking real, kind of good. But before that, you don't know. You never know. You just work on intuition, kind of thing. So,
do you dilute your oils with like mineral spirits or acetone?
When you use the first layers, you never dilute them.
Okay.
Diluted, they will just not cover anything.
Okay.
So you need to. I can send you a link on Fizechko's videos. They're very,
No, I was curious.
We use oils frequently to change the tone. For example, put some kind of ochre, brown kind of tone. You dilute it very well. Then you put it on acrylic surface, black kind of thing. It gives you this kind of tone variation. It's very well used in the modelism, for the tanks and everything else. When they kind of use a variation of the color, with small oil dots. But the whole idea is a very diluted oil paint, which dries very quickly.
The only reason I ask was because in college, I've used oil paints as an artist since high school. And I went to a magnet school here in town as an art major. So not great at oil paints, but I've used them before. But the only reason I asked was in college, I had to do a diptych. And for people who don't know what a diptych is two paintings. When you put them together, it makes one large painting, or they can exist apart. So I had to do it. We had to do a diptych. We had to do, I think it was monochromatic. We could have black, white, and one color. So one painting had to be black, white, one color. The other painting had to be black, white, one color. And we were using oils. And I primed I was using particle board that I bought from a hardware store. I just had them cut it in half. I primed it with white. And then laid down my colors. I was I did the blacks first, and then it sucks. I don't have this piece anymore, by the way. The college lost it. The left painting was, I was using brown, white, and black. And then the right painting was magenta, black, white. Or magenta, black, and white. And I would lay the black down first to get the black and white image and do some shading. And then I would actually go through, even with the blacks, because I was so used to painting with acrylics, I would dilute them with mineral spirits to create like a smoother application of the paint. And so it actually kind of, you could layer it almost kind of like acrylics, but it would also dry faster. So that's what reason, and for blending, sometimes like when the paint, I had class twice a week. So like if on Thursday, when I went on Monday, there were certain areas that had dried that I didn't want dried. So I'd actually use a little bit of mineral spirits to reactivate the oil paint. So I could blend the brown or the magenta into the black. And I didn't use a whole lot of white. I primarily just used the white of the primer for the canvas. So
as I said, it's hard for me to translate experience from miniature to canvas.
Oh, no worries. No, I've been very curious about miniature painting in oil.
Again, on canvas, I guess because of the volume of it, the rules will be absolutely different. I don't have that experience, but I would say that mineral. I mean, you can use it still, but I mostly use it for working with like tonal variations, but not the oil paint itself contains enough of the solvents or oil with linseed oil or whatever is a part of it, what they, the pigment, and then it kind of provide a certain fluidity if you want to mix it for the very small surfaces. Again, not that what you diptych you work on could be totally something you work over a period of days, especially have a different rules. So it's interesting.
So with another question with painting in mind was because you grew up in the same era I did pretty much with painting, what do you think of 90s Eavy Metal Grim Bright style versus modern Eavy Metal, I don't know, box art / grim dark style?
What is Grim Bright style? What's the definition?
Like the Grim Bright's the stuff that I do. Like it looks like it's from like 1990s White Dwarf.
Why grim then?
Grim Bright's a play on words, like how like everything, every book with 40K it says in the grim dark future of Warhammer 40,000. Okay. A Grim Bright is a term a friend of mine came up for how like 90s painting style looked, where everything was really bright and cartoony. So she came up with Grim Bright, and I asked her, I was like, can I use that? She's like, I don't care. So I've latched onto it and just used the hell out of it. But that's what Grim Bright painting is, like the 90s really bright, cartoony, cel-shaded looking stuff that we grew up with.
I see. Well, I would say that if you kind of... There is a sort of benefit of both, yeah? I mean, the cleanness, clear presence of the color without too much, kind of darkening pigment or kind of messy kind of pigment. Because with the grim dark, it's easy probably just to apply a lot of washes, kind of these materials, and make miniature just look overly desaturated into some kind of brown mess. So I guess when you paint, it's all comes with these rules that you look like, for example, what is a point of interest? As classic concept, as it is. When in your miniature you want the spectator to look at. Yeah. Usually it's face, eyes, face, the zone. So
the head area.
So that area should be clean, should be well read, should be well delineated, nice, good colors, clear colors used. Not bright, but kind of and then the rest, if you want to shade it off, sort of, then it comes, desaturating paints, or adding maybe washes, sort of, sleep it away, hide it, make everything, maybe what you want them to look at, pop up, make everything else kind of, not important, goes away. I was once impressed with, I think it's a surgeon, one of the American great painters. It was in the Manhattan Metropolitan Museum of Art, and then he was painting, and he was like, he would paint the face so well, but when you look at how he painted like fingers and some sleeves and everything else, they were almost like, kind of a very, primitive sort of draft.
Yeah.
Like underline something.
Impressionistic.
But never get any detail of it. Yeah, because he wanted you to look at certain area of the painting and not particular. It was, I think, the timing he was doing
things
right after the American Revolution, so it was not yet Impressionism in America, but it was really coming to that style when you really look at the painting and you see that they want something they want you to look at. So that was an interesting impression.
It's the neat thing is like you actually, through all the stuff that you talk about, you actually sound like you have like very much like you're very much into like classical stuff, like classical artists, like almost like a classic artist training background.
It's from my friend Kirill.
Okay.
Once he was coming here, he was doing master classes, and his master classes where he was playing. For example, his master class called like let's work on how to paint leather. Yeah, and he would give you initially a 1 hour lecture. What is a leather? What is the types of leather? Real like leather. How the leather get old. How that get kind of weared off and everything else. And he also come with the pictures, with materials and everything else. He was really deep into this sort of theory of studying things. The same as he would tell you how to paint, bust. And he would just use the examples from the classic painting theory on the miniature. I think that's what probably what you hear in me in maybe sort of remnants or residuals of that type of influence. I would not say I've never been to any school of painting or kind of any classes or anything like that. So it sounds like that because my friends influenced me quite well.
You're the Pax Acrylica school of painting. So with all that said, I wanted to actually jump into your Instagram feed, and let me actually put I do my questions list as a marker so I know where to trim in my software. Oop, that's ending. There we go. So so this is your Instagram, and we've talked about this the whole episode. And when I found you like 2.5 years ago, I was so thoroughly impressed with just what you do with sculpting and also your painting. And now that I know that you're using acrylics, I'm sorry, not you're using oils. I'm just mind blown because I thought you were using AK's paints because Warheezy stuff looks a lot like yours. And you've taken such creative approaches to the things that you do. I'm just kind of rambling because I'm preloading all this because whenever I click on one of your images, it will jump all the way back to the top when I unclick it. So the one big one I did want to get to was it's way down here to start off with because it's going to be the lowest part in here. Come on. Nope. There we go. Your Terminators. These things. This was the first thing I saw from you, and I was just blown away by this. Yeah, it was. I found you in 22, so it was a couple months after that you posted these, and you actually one thing that you talked about earlier in the show was how you achieve your reds, and you're more than welcome to talk about that because I know a lot of people would love to hear about it.
It's the same cadmium red from oils.
Okay,
it's so red that you can't find anything redder. Probably there's a little bit of communist in me. They like red things. So when I saw cadmium red, I instantaneously fell in love. It's indeed a very saturated red color, and it's and it's easy to work. You put it on, even you don't want to paint anything else in oils. You just put it on, get let time to dry, and then put it some gloss. Even with the glossy varnish, it will still shine very, very bright.
No,
so I don't.
No, go ahead.
I honestly don't even. I think I use spray. Another your big helper, of course, is that you use inks.
Yeah.
So nowadays everybody uses it again. It's also something Kirill showed on his master classes. Or like company Schmulke, a German company.
Okay.
And they're very saturated, again, pigment-wise. And again, they're very also glossy, so you need to add a little bit of the matte varnish together. You spray it over. It's already created a kind of good red experience. And on the top of it, you put oil. But actually, cadmium red you can put on any surface. It will stay good. Because, it's such a... the base I think they use beneath is sort of... It's not transparent, so if you put red, it's not really... Anything beneath it would not really shine, but I would still prefer to put it on something whitish.
And these started out as just normal plastic Terminators from Games Workshop, right?
Yep. I mean, I think I got some negative feedback, by the way, about the red one, because apparently that was some kind of rare model from Space Hulk.
Oh.
I somehow bought it on eBay, bits of it, and then they cut it and they kind of sculpted on top of it, and then somebody told me, saying, how come you just kind of you just destroyed something in a very limited quantity, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So.
I don't understand that about the side of that side of the hobby, or that side of miniatures. Like, to me, I'm in that kind of like you. Like, I'm gonna post, like, I don't care how rare it is. I'm gonna if I'm gonna cut it up and do something with it, it's gonna really be really cool. Or, oh, dude, you should have kept it in the box and not painted it. No, I bought this. I'm gonna paint it. What I did with my body kit brand. People hold Nissan 240 SXs in like such high regard, and like certain parts they hold in high regard. And to me, I'm just like, it's just a car, dude. I mean, like, now it's like, I still like my car a lot. I've got it sitting in my garage, but at the same time, it's like, dude, it's just a car. It doesn't, if you put it that important in your life, then to me, you need to like reweigh your values and like what you hold dear to your heart in your life. Because if you're valuing this tangible object so deeply over something else in your life, you're a little off. I mean, like, if some guy's griping at you because you cut up an old Space Hulk miniature, there's tens of thousands of them. They made a lot of them. And not only did you cut it up, but I mean, you did something astronomically cool with it that no one else has and nobody else will have, because it's yours and you sculpted this thing. So to me, that train of thinking is just like, maybe you should value the time with your mom a little bit more, because she's finite on this planet. There's a people who collect stuff. Yeah.
I'm grateful to them. They bought few miniatures of mine to their collections, and I'm pretty appreciative of it, because I add something to them, and they're happy to have it. It's fantastic. I mean, for me, it matters when I'm working on something. When I finish working on it, it's sort of I don't really collect stuff. Although I still have plenty, but I kind of slowly get rid of it, because honestly, you don't have a very wide shelves. You need space on them. So,
again, both of these started out as just normal plastic Terminators. I really like what you did with it.
I think the Wolf one is actually a Chaos one. The Wolf is a Chaos one.
Oh, wow.
And I think maybe I probably bought some few beats, like a blaster pistol. And I think I sculpted the Fuhrer, and then a plate in the belly, and the rest. Yeah, a lot of sculpting, but I think I was inspired by the time with the Chaos ones. Because
how long did it take you to sculpt that?
I don't know. It's all come very naturally. When you have a work, you have a child, you have a family.
Yeah.
You only have this sort of a little bit time here, a little bit time there. Somebody's sleeping, you do it. You have a break, you do it, and everything else. So it's putting together all this time. I would say maybe a few days.
Oh, wow.
Usually I post something every week.
Yeah.
That means that it usually takes a week to make something. I was funny, before my child was born, I for some reason had like a couple of weeks of like a last time when you have all time on your hands. and you don't know yet, but you kind of feel that it's about to end. And for some reason, I did like I don't know. In 2 weeks, I did all my arbiters.
Oh, nice.
My arbiters I posted like later on, like the blue uniform. All set of them I sculpted within a week or so. I was kind of, and then when my baby was born, I was too busy. I was just posting 1 miniature at a time, you know. So kind of.
Hey, whatever works.
Ahead, yeah. And then eventually it's over. So things would continue at the same time. So.
No, I had an interesting idea. It's a challenge I'll give you if you want to do it. I think it'll turn out cool as hell. Just looking at the way you sculpt your Terminators, I think you should do your own take on what you think Saturnine Terminators should look like.
Saturday night?
Saturnine, the new big bulky ones from 30K.
Okay, I'll check it.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
Games Workshop release something new every week as well.
Well, Saturnine armor, the sculpt has been around since the 1980s. Before,
like shoulders above the head.
Yeah, and they got tiny heads.
See, I made it. I made it to a certain time when they were not present.
Well, the Saturnine armor has been around since the 80s. Like Games Workshop did 3 Terminator prototypes, and Saturnine was one of them. On the base, on the slot, it said Exo armor, and then throughout, like they ended up going with the Rogue Trader era Terminators that we all know that grew into what we know now. And Saturnine kind of sat on the back shelf, and it was kind of like a fan created lore / canon, and Games Workshop acknowledged it, but there was always like anybody who talked about Saturnine or anybody who painted the old Saturnine Terminator armors and labeled it that, there was always one guy who'd come into the chat and be like, well, actually, it's not Saturnine. And now that Games Workshop's officially made that style armor canon to what Saturnine is, you got the guys who are complaining.
So you talk about the most recently released miniatures when they have like a really, really huge shoulder pads.
Yes.
So that's the whole thing, you know. Once Games Workshop arrived with the huge shoulder pads, it's time for me to depart somewhere else.
Well, I'll send you a picture of the original Saturnine. I don't think it's. I want to see if it's on my. No, it's not on the screen. I can send you a picture. I painted one up as a Blood Angel, the original 80 sculpt. And I think with what Games Workshop did with the modern Saturnines, like to me, I like them, but I don't want to paint one. It's just too overly complicated. There's just too much going on. It doesn't look fun. But from a perspective of like, that's a really cool model, I'm fine with that.
Yep.
You were talking about your art. Oh, hang on. Where'd it go? Where is he? Was that him? Yeah. Yeah, we were talking earlier, like how you sculpt like a lot of bloat into your commanders and all that stuff for Imperial Guard. This guy was always like, wow, he looks like Baron Harkonnen.
And then you find the, 5 another Baron Harkonnen iteration, including actually Baron Harkonnen actually sculpted. If you go much earlier, the floating guy.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, he was the closest to the Baron Harkonnen. All the old guys. Oh,
that's cool. That's really cool. I want to see that painted one day. That Space Marine. That's neat.
It is in the progress.
Oh, actually, while we're here, just because I really, really, really like these. These are really disturbing. I love this. I like the helmet sculpt. Bloodborne? What's that?
Did you play Bloodborne?
No.
Or to play Bloodborne, and you would want to do something like that.
Well, the helmet design is like really disturbing because it's a very non-traditional helmet. It looks very uncomfortable to wear. I don't know if you ever played Silent Hill.
Yes.
But this reminded me a lot of Pyramid Head because like the Japanese artist who designed him wanted to give that impression of like being permanently uncomfortable because of that helmet. And he actually did some concept pieces with the helmet removed. When it's put together, it's welded shut, but on the inside of the helmet, there's actually spikes, and there's spikes going down into the shoulders. So the person wearing it is in constant torture, and these guys, the helmets on these guys very much reminded me of that. Like there's some kind of weird army style helmet for this particular faction, but they look insanely uncomfortable and just very disturbing for that matter.
Well, it's in fact, it's a cage you put on your head. You just don't see the head inside. but it's a special cage which mages of that world use. It's called the Mikolash.
Okay.
Mikolash cage. So it's again, it's a Bloodborne, but Bloodborne also made by Japanese, designers. So they all think the same in that sense.
Okay, we were looking for the Baron Harkonnen, and she did the floating guy. Where is he?
Oh, much further.
That guy?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Meet Vladimir, governor of the industrial anvil world of G Prime. Honest, humble, and caring is how local people characterize governor's rule. That sounds like propaganda.
Well, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing.
So you based him off Baron Harkonnen?
Huh?
You based him off Baron Harkonnen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I was utterly impressed with Baron Harkonnen. From the novel, from the book, from the Lynch movie, from the recent movie as well.
Yeah.
He's always played well and depicted well.
I didn't find I found the original Harkonnen in the 1970s, the David Lynch Dune, to be a little bit more, I don't know, like psychotic and disturbing than the modern actor who played him. Like, I still found the modern actor playing him, the way they designed his character in the movie, the aesthetic and everything, very, still very disgusting and very almost like Nurgle-esque, but not in the same way I found the original one in the 1970s film to be.
In a ways, I would say that Lynch, Baron Harkonnen, with all this aesthetics and suits and sort of they kind of incomprehensible actions, like what they do, like fluids and whatever things. It's kind of it's memorable. Yeah, it's memorable. And the Stellan Skarsgård performance, it's also quite notable, but he's a little kind of toned down, very evil sort of person. That other Baron, he kind of has this sort of element of fun in him, which is kind of, for some reason, it's a very dear to me. So
there's almost like a joyfulness in his masochism toward himself and other people. Like the scene that just popped in my head was when that younger guy comes into the room and he yanks out his heart thingamajigger and he just laughs about it.
Yeah, you remember it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I saw that movie when I was a kid, and I thought it was like one of the most disturbing things I'd ever seen. Oh, the things that shape us when we're children.
That's true.
I mean, I don't need to bring up, but I'll bring it up anyway. The dying of artifacts and the horse and Never-Ending Story. I mean, that pretty much. What's that?
Is it horse?
Did you ever see Never-Ending Story?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when the horse dies, you're just like, that just scars your childhood for the rest of your life. Okay, so unfortunately, due to technical circumstances, we got to end this one shortly. But I wanted to say thank you very much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Like I've said, I found you a couple years ago, and I've just been amazed by the work that you produce. And you've inspired and influenced so many people out there. And I know a lot of people are going to enjoy hearing this interview with you, as they've been very curious about you and what you do. But to end the show, is there anybody you'd like to give any shout outs to?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a long list, and I already talked to many of these people. I encourage who will anybody who survived to my sort of spacious or ruminations about miniatures. But go and check miniatures of Kirill Kanaev, yellow one.
Okay.
Either on Kupini or on Instagram. I will be happy to send you links. People like Marina Fadeeva or Dmitry Fisechko, again, they're from Russia. Mm-hmm. They may not be all known in, especially in America, I would say. Yeah, so in Europe they're quite known. So I would say. Paolo Parente, he's created this sort of interesting system called Dust, when there's almost Second World War aesthetics, but with a giant mechs.
Oh wow!
I bet you saw his works in the miniatures. I think there were Fantasy Flight was releasing some of the game called the Dust, but he all inspired the whole universe of it. So it's like a walking universe. And of course, my kind of brothers in Instagram.
mostly I know them by account names. Yeah, totally non-Panic, for example. Yeah, is a fantastic weird punk sort of grimdark kind of miniatures. People from between Bolter and me, yeah, who do Journal of Inquisition 28. So yeah, I mean the kind of our ranks are large, but we can just put a list of names. In fact, I had a list of names.
Well, we when the show goes live, actually, I'll just contact you via Instagram. You can just write me out a whole list. You know, if you can send me links to their profiles, that'd be great, and I'll put them down in the information below, so people can definitely check them out. I know there's going to be a lot of people very curious on, you know, who inspires you and who you actually follow and take interest in.
Of course, and yeah, so Baharot, Lawrence from UK, of course, Squidmire miniatures. They always come with interesting projects.
I love Emma and Lucas; they're great guys.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us, and it's always great to know that your works are interesting to somebody, because the other side of a real side of it, I'm living in northern Maine. It's you don't have people around. You have people who play board games. You have people who, like my wife, you know, the great, you know, compliments and gratitude should go to her, because she gave me time. She said, "Hey, you want to take some miniature time?"
Yeah.
So this is who allow this production to continue. You know, that's the biggest contributor. But then hobby, the platforms like Instagrams, I think when we post the miniatures there, we're using the social platform most proper way how it was designed to you, instead of political reels or whatever stuff you can find over there. You just post images. You know, you post your works, and other people come and compliment you and inspire you back, kind of, to continue. And so I'm very grateful to all of them.
Yeah, Instagram has been it's been a great thing. It's an excellent platform for miniature painting, because it's just, you know, it's all visual based. So it's neat how, like, it's just such a centralized hub for miniature painters, and you find, you know, like you mentioned, you have people out there appreciating your work that you have no idea even exist. And I was one of those people for a very long time. Like, in a lot of ways, like, I don't have any fear of it, but there's your work is really intimidating. And there's a lot of people who are they're scared to approach people and say, "Dude, I really like your stuff," because they feel too fanboyish, or they, you know, they might think the person thinks like they're a dork or something. But no, it's really cool that we have the central hub to where we can all now connect and talk and show each other miniatures, and we can find our people.
and it's not. I don't think it's a fanboyism or anything else. There's a lot of people come to my work and tell me that they like it, and it's the same. I go to other people who, whatever I see on the feed, whoever my friends, I sometimes actively like check. Somebody has a recent postings, and they go to their works, and it's nothing is less of being fantastic than just see somebody post it and posting fantastic work, and you can comment on it and give a kind of give that love back, kind of, you know. It's all kind of reciprocal.
Well, and the thing I've with the painting community in general, and I've talked about this in those shows, is like the majority of us, it's like, if you like our work, please talk to us. You know, we're generally we're all open people, and we enjoy talking about painting. And it's everyone I've brought on the show thus far, everybody is just really open, really welcoming. They really enjoy it. Some guys who come on here are a bit nervous, but they get into it, and sharing this little aspect of their lives is really important to them, and they really enjoy it. And it's just, it's nice to be part of a community now that is just so opening and welcoming and uplifting toward one another and everybody around them.
Well, thanks much to you, because you give us, Lennon, you give us voices, you give us faces, you know, you're forgiven to technical glitches.
It's an honor to do it.
You bring us closer to the people who paint and who like our works, and who is together we're all together like a community. So coming people together, bringing people together. That's fantastic.
You are absolutely welcome. And again, it's a complete honor for me to do this for the painting community. I never thought like the silly little show idea would really interest people, but it's an absolute honor to sit down with everybody I bring on and just talk to you guys one-on-one and, you know, nerd out about painting, this special little thing we have in our lives. So
yep. It's a big honor to be part of the show then. Yeah.
What's that?
A big honor for me to be part of your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with all that said, you've got to run, you know, you're kind of trying to end your work day. I will go ahead and shut the show down for the evening. Thank you, Eugene, for coming on. And also, you know, here's a couple more videos. There's a podcast, there's a painting tutorial. If you guys want to check out more of my stuff, have at it. And I'll talk to you guys in a bit.